Okay, so the truth of the matter is the Torah should have ended, I think, or it could have ended at the end of Bechukotai. Um, and if you look at the last parsha, the last pasuk of the parsha, I can share my screen for a second just to show you. It's actually ending, and the ending is the last pasuk in Sefer Vayikra says like this: "Eila mitzvot asher tziva Adonai et Moshe al bnei Yisrael b'Har Sinai." That's not how Shemot ends, right? These are the mitzvot that God commanded. Hashem commanded Moshe at Har Sinai. In other words, it seems like everything from Vayikra on, or some from Parshat Yitro through the end of the Parsha is all connected to Har Sinai. Rashi last week at the beginning of Shemitah, but Har Sinai said, Ma'inyan Shemitah Leitzel Har Sinai. There's some connection linking up back to Har Sinai, and this would just be a very nice ending point of the Torah, because there really is no need, there should have been no need for most of Bamidbar, no Meraglim, at least according to Rashi, it was a bad idea to send the Meraglim. And if there's no Meraglim, there's no Korach, there's no rebellion against Moshe. And then there's no 40 years in the desert, and then there's no Bilam and Balak, and there's no Miriam and Aaron dying, and there's no nothing. The rest of Bamidbar doesn't really happen. And of course, Sefer Dvarim doesn't happen because the book of Sefer Dvarim is Moshe Rabbeinu preparing the Jewish people to enter the land of Israel. So he's trying to tell the children not to make the same mistakes as their parents, which is why Sefer Dvarim opens up with the sin of the spies, and it doesn't open up with the sin of the golden calf, because sin of the golden calf may be being worse, whatever, earlier. But the reason they didn't go to Israel is because of the Chen HaMeraklim. And therefore, that's what Moshe begins the book with. And of course, that's the whole book, is preparing the Jewish people. Don't you're going there, don't follow the avodah zarah of the people, etc., etc. And so we wouldn't have needed that, and the Torah could have ended. Of course, the question would have been, so maybe you would have had a short book. You would have had 3 1/3 books, maybe the beginning of Bamidbar, till really Vayihi bin Soa. Vayihi bin Soa is really the transition point. Rav Soloveitchik, if it's one of the shirim, I heard him, on tape, a beautiful shir in Balotcha, where you have Vayihi bin Soa, the backwards nun. The nun represents Nefilah, falling, and that was basically the point after the complaining of the meat and the running away from Har Sinai, and the Jewish people. Vayihi bin Soa is sort of is cordoned off. And from the beginning to the end, Rashi says, because you don't want to have too many bad things next to each other. So it's complain. So we want to break up the complaint with Vayihi bin Soa, but that really marked the beginning of the end of the Jewish people. It's soon after they sent the spies. So Bechukotai should have been the end. And then yet, okay, so you'd have a little bit of Bamidbar. You could have thrown it into Vayikra at its own book. What is also interesting is then what would you have done with Sefer Dvarim? Anybody want to guess? Right, we all know that Sefer Dvarim is Mishnah Torah, which means what? What does Mishnah Torah mean?
A review.
A review, except there's you know what? If you were to tell somebody who never read the Chumash that Sefer Dvarim is a review, I want you to grade the book as a review of the first 4 books. So you'd get between, let's say, on a scale of 0 to 10, you'd get a 0. On a scale of 0 to 100, maybe you get 5. I don't know. And half of the Torah is not mentioned. There's nothing about the Beit HaMikdash, nothing in Bereshit. So lots of stuff isn't there. It's not repetition. And then how many mitzvot? How many new mitzvot? Right? We assume there's 613 mitzvot in the Torah. So how many of those mitzvot appear in Sefer Dvarim? Anybody want to take a guess? 10, 5. I don't know. What mitzvah do you know that appears in Sefer Dvarim? Anybody? Hello?
Egla Rufa.
Egla Rufa. Whoa! Of all the mitzvot in Sefer Dvarim, pick on Egla Rufa. That's great. That's great.
I took a swing at it.
I'm sorry, Egla Rufa ties into Bereshit also. So you get the two birds with one stone, because that's the Parsha Yosef was learning with Yaakov. You know that weird, strange Rashi, right? When he left Bayaret HaAgalot, when Yosef sent back the wagon. So of course, what are the rabbis driving at? What kind of ridiculous thing? He saw the wagons. They're learning Egla Rufa. The whole thing makes absolutely no sense, because only people who are fools, according to the Rambam, take midrashim literally. But what it means is, what's Egla Arufa? Is to leave somebody to go alone. the rabbis have to bring this atonement because they let this person come and they didn't escort him home, and because of that, they're considered responsible. We didn't spill this blood. Who would have thought the rabbis? They don't spill the blood, of course not, but they didn't escort him. So that's exactly Yaakov and Yosef. That Yaakov sent Yosef to Shechem without escorting him. So that's why they were learning. They weren't like Egla Rufa. The idea of Egla Rufa Bayar Tegalot, that's what the Midrash is driving at. But that's very nice. Nothing to do with what we're talking about, but that's one of the mitzvot in Sefer Dvarim. Shema is in Sefer Dvarim. The mitzvah of tzedakah is in Sefer Dvarim. Getting married is in Sefer Dvarim. Lots of really, really important mitzvot that we don't hear anywhere else in the Torah are found in Sefer Dvarim. 199 of them. According to the Sefer HaChinuch, actually 200. Sefer Dvarim, I just looked it up before. In Sefer HaChinuch, Sefer Dvarim opens up at mitzvah 414. So that means there are 200, right? 414 to 613. 200 of the 613 mitzvot were Sefer Dvarim. So it's a little bit strange for me to say, well, you wouldn't need Sefer Dvarim. But what it means is the theme of Sefer Dvarim wouldn't be needed. Those mitzvot could have been recorded elsewhere. I mean, I don't know. I'm just where they would have been recorded is interesting. When were those mitzvot actually given? There's also a fascinating question. It's a question really that Rashi raised last week when Rashi says, "Ma'inyan Shemitah Eitzel Har Sinai." What is the mitzvah Shemitah doing at Har Sinai? So Rashi answers all the mitzvot were given at Har Sinai, right? Every mitzvah was given. So how do we know that that's not literally true? I mean, the mitzvah to give the daughters inheritance was given then at Mount Sinai. So how come Moshe didn't know about it when they came? If 414 is included, it's 201. No, it's 200. Because if 413 is included, it's 201, I think. 414 to 613 is exactly 200, I think, if I know how to do grade 2 math. Anyway, so there's so many things in the Torah. Obviously, Korach, so many mitzvot were said as a result of events that happened in Sefer Bamidbar. So it's really, it is not clear at all exactly what mitzvot. We're coming up to Shavuot. So what mitzvot were given at Har Sinai and what weren't. But the authority for all the mitzvot were given. But it's clear parts of the Torah were not given at Mount Sinai. Some were given in Arbat Moab. They're given later. There is a debate in the Gemara. How was the Torah itself given? Was the Torah given Megillah Niknate? Was the Torah given piecemeal? Like as it happened, Parshat Korach happened, so they got Korach. Oh, they wrote Korach in the Torah, and Chukat happened, so they wrote Chukat. Or no, or Megillah that was given at the end. At the end, they give a one whole big Torah, and the Torah describes in the last day of Moshe's life, he's giving the Torah to the other tribes. But anyway, by being thematically, in many ways, the Torah ends at Parshat Bechukotai. It also makes then for a lot of sense thematically why the Torah would end with blessings and curses. In other words, we get the Torah at Mount Sinai, and then we have all the mitzvot. So, by the way, I forgot to check. There are 200 mitzvot or 201. They're arguing whatever in Sefer Dvarim. I mean, we don't have an exact agreed upon list anyway. There are 3 in Bereshit, not so many in Bereshit. That takes us to 203. So we still have 410 left. So between Shmot, Bamidbar, and Vayikra, we got 410 left. So I forgot to look it up, but I know the most are in Vayikra. Vayikra is over 200. Shmot is a bunch, but not so many. You guys got a lot in Mishpatim, but it's probably under 100. I don't know exactly. But Vayikra is the most mitzvot, followed by Dvarim, and then Shmot, Bamidbar, and Bereshit. But anyway, so they get the Torah at Mount Sinai, and the rest of the Torah from Yitro on till Bechukotai is mitzvah after mitzvah. There are no stories. That's it. Once we get to Parshat Yitro, the boring part of the Torah starts, right? The Mishkan, everybody falls asleep for 5 weeks. Thank God, Kitis in the middle, so you can talk about the Cheda Egel. And then we get to the Korbanos, oh my God. And then get Tazria Mitzorim. We're upset when it's not a leap year, because then when it is a leap year, because then we have to read Tazria Mitzorah in 2 weeks. When it's not a leap year, we can combine them, right? By the way, that's one of the reasons they give when Israel, we don't want to, forget that. I have to think about that for a second. But Tazria Mitzorah, really, it's very technical. It's not applicable to today, but it's all mitzvot. It's all mitzvot. And the 2 stories, the story of Nadav and Abihu is a reaction what happened in the Mishkan, and then the story of last week on the blasphemer. So that's it. It's all lost. And therefore the Torah ends, quote unquote. The original Torah ends. God warns us, okay, now you better keep im bechukotai telechu. If you follow the mitzvah, great. And if not, it's going to be very bad. And of course, when we have to restart the Torah again, so to speak, and we have Bamidbar and Dvarim, so guess what? At the end of Dvarim, we have again brachot and klalot. It's not right at the end. The Torah ends v'zot habracha. It ends with Moshe's blessing, but we have the klalot again in Kitava, really towards the end of the Torah. Moshe gives his big long speech, his last few weeks of his life, and then he basically concludes that speech with the Tochacha. And if you look through Nitzavim Hanazinu, truth of the matter, they also are really almost part of the Tochacha too, in a certain sense, right? What's Nitzavim? Atem Nitzavim Ayom Kolchem, Laver Chaber Brit, you better follow the covenant. Hazinu Hashemayim Baretz, listen to skies, and if not, it's going to be bad news. So the Truma, the ending part of the Torah, like the end of Vayikra, the end of the Dvarim, are very similar in the idea of the brachot and klalot that Moshe Rabbeinu or HaKadosh Baruch Hu is giving to the Jewish people. I'm afraid to share my screen. I'll try one more time because the last time I did, my video went away. So, but maybe I'll do it in a moment. Okay. All right. So now we read Bechukotai. Why are we reading Bechukotai now? That's a silly question. Why read it like between Pesach and Shavuos? Why because last week we read Bahar, and the week before we read Emor. So that's what we're up to. We started in Simcha story, go week by week. So it turns out that we're here at Bechukotai before Shavuos time. We always read because everybody knows what you have to read before Shavuot. Hello, anybody? Right?
Read the Klolot.
Bamidbar, no? Okay. So let me say, see, there you go. But I'm going to share my screen. So it won't matter for a second, and then I'll come back and hopefully I'll fix it, and then I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, again. Okay. So here the Mishnah. The Gemara says like this. Tanya, this is a Gemara in Megillah 31a. The Gemara says, Tanya Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Ezra Tikei Lim Yisyoshi Korim Klalot, Shabbatot Kohanim Kodem Atzeret. Ezra at the beginning of the Second Temple period, the second Moshe Rabbeinu, right? The Gemara says that the Torah should have been given to Ezra, but Moshe beat him to it because Ezra really revitalized Torah. As the Jewish people were at a very, very weak point, totally assimilated. The people who came back to Israel were totally ignorant, totally assimilated, mamzerim, and Ezra basically re-established the covenant with the Jewish people. And the Gemara said, because of him, he re-established Torah. And the Torah should have been given to Ezra, but what can you do? Moshe Rabbeinu beat him to it. So the Gemara says we gave him a prize. We changed the font of the Torah. We went from the Ktav Ivrit to Ktav Asherit. But Ezra really is viewed in Chazal as a second Moshe Rabbeinu. I think the Gemara says he lived to be 120. He's like Moshe Rabbeinu. So he said that we should read the Klalot in Torah Kohanim, that's our Parsha, before Atzeret, before a holiday of Shavuot, right? In the Mishnah, Atzeret is not Shmini Atzeret. In the Mishnah, Sukkot is Chag, and Shavuot is the Atzeret. It's like the Shmini Atzeret of Pesach, right? The Atzeret of Sukkot is what we call Shmini Atzeret, and the Atzeret of Pesach, the end of the Pesach season, we count, right? The Torah says, okay, you phone in Pesach, but it's not really over. You got another 49 days, another 50 days, so you count. So Atzeret goes to the conclusion of Pesach, Mishnah Torah, Kodem Rosh Hashanah. You have to read it before Rosh Hashanah. So it's not because it's Parshat Shavua. Now, you understand, everybody understands, there was no Parshat Shavua now, right? There was no Parshat Shavua when Ezra, or even if there was Parshat Shavua, in Israel, they read the Parsha every 3 years. So when it says in the Mishnah, or it says here in the Gemara, that Ezra made a decree that they should read the Klalot before Shavuot, it means it was a special Torah reading, like we do on Parshat Shkalim, or whatever. No, we do on Yontif. So we ignore the Parshat of the week, and we do a total special reading of Yontif. It wasn't that it coincidentally, the way we have it, maybe not coincidentally, whatever, we do it before it's here, though we'll have to see. We don't. We have another week in between, and then we have to read the one in Kitavo before Shana. We read my Tama. Why do we do this? Amar Abaye Kadesh V'Klilaloteha. in order that the year would come to an end, right? Everybody knows that Shavua is the beginning of the year, right? You all knew that, right? That you thought the year started on Rosh Hashanah. That's one year, but we have another year that starts on Shavuos. So we want to make sure get rid of all the curses before the holiday of Shavuot. Let's get rid of all the curses. So we read it then, and then we read it before Rosh Hashanah. We always read Kitab before Rosh Hashanah. So before the new year, we get rid of it. So the Gemara's range. They said, I understand before Rosh Hashanah. Bishlama Mishnah Torah. I get it. We read it before Rosh Hashanah. I understand. We want to read the curses before the year ends. Ela Shebatorah Kohanim in Vayikra, our book. Atu Atzeret Rosh Hashanah. Did whoever heard that Rosh Hashanah, that Shavuot is a Rosh Hashanah? I never heard such a thing. The Gemara says, yeah, it is. Atzeret Nami Rosh Hashanah. Atzeret is also Rosh Hashanah. Why is Atzeret Rosh Hashanah? So before we go further, I mean, you can see it, but I just want to go right here. So the first Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah tells us there are 4 New Years, right? There's, I always say, there's the New Year of the school. That's the day after Labor Day. There's the New Year of January 1st. And then there's the New Year of the baseball season in the end of March. And there's the new, and then there's the New Year on July the 1st. I'm Canadian, okay? So the New Year of Canada. So we have different New Years. So we have one New Year is the 1st of Nisan. We have one New Year on the 1st of Elul. We don't have to go into what their New Year's for, whatever. That's not for now. Then we have Bechad B'Tishrei. That's the 3rd New Year. That's the famous New Year. And then we have the New Year debate. When is Tu B'Shvat? When is Tu B'Shvat on the 1st of Shvat? Then it wouldn't be called Tu B'Shvat. It would called. It wouldn't go well. It'd be Aleph Shvat. That doesn't sound so good. Is the New Year for the trees on the 1st of Shvat or the 15th of Shvat? So this is an interesting debate. But I mean, there are 4 Rosh Hashanahs, but you'll notice Shavuos is not one of them. The Gemara says, yeah, Shavuos is also Rosh Hashanah. Why Shavuos Rosh Hashanah? It's not Rosh Hashanah. The Mishnah says there are 4 Hashanah, and Shavuos is not one of them. There's one in Nisan, there's one in Elul, there's one in Tishrei, and there's one in Shvat. So the Mishnah says the next one, because on the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah says, "Ba'arba prakim olam nidon." So we think the world is judged again. You think it's only judged in Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? No, the world is judged 4 times. 4 times. Chalatua. On Pesach, the world is judged for wheat. That's why we bring Korbana Omer, a barley, to sort of appease. I don't really like that word so much, but that's God should remember us. So we bring our first barley, our first harvest to the Beit HaMikdash. That's the Korbana Omer. But Seret up Peirot Ilan, and that's Seret at the beginning of the fruit. Here it actually means wheat harvest, and that's the Shtei Halechem. I think people associate with Bikurim, the fruits of the tree. Okay, also very nice. But in the Torah, the Bikurim can be brought from Shavuos till Chanukah time. At least till Sukkot, maybe till Chanukah. That's the Mishnah talks about that. But it's a seasonal. Bikurim is brought seasonal on beginning at Shavuot. The Shtei Halechem, the 2 loaves of bread that are brought on Shavuot that have to be made of chametz, right? Unlike the opposite of Pesach, right? But everything in the Beit HaMikdash is always only matzah. That the Shtei Halechem, that's the Perot Ilan, really is brought on Shavuot, made of chametz. Rosh Hashanah, that's the biggie. The whole world, Jew and non. Ba'elam always means non-Jews. It means the whole world is judged. They were owned like sheep, whatever. And then B'chag and on Pesach, on Sukkot, we're judged for the water. See, these are the 4 judgments. So our Gemara and Megillah says, you know why Seret, Shavuot is a Rosh Hashanah? Because it says Ubat Seret al Perot Ilan, because it says we're judged. That's the Mishnah. We judge on Rosh Hashanah. It's very funny. It should say it's a New Year because it isn't a New Year. Like it should say because it says Arba Rosh Hashanah, and one of the Rosh Hashanahs is Atzeret, but one of the Rosh Hashanahs isn't Atzeret. So it's a very funny Gemara. So now I'm going to stop sharing and hopefully get my video back. Please God, yeah, okay. Why does what does it mean that then Atzeret is a New Year? Right? The Mishnah says we read Bechukotai, the brachon and the klalot, at least, maybe not the whole parsha. I don't know what they did exactly. Ezra said they have to read the brachon and klalot. before Atzeret, before Shavua, because Shavuos is the year end, as it says that we're judged on the Perot HaElon on Shavuot. So it doesn't say it's the year end. So what do you see from the Gemara? I mean, what's clearly what the Gemara is saying is what's the purpose of a year end? The purpose of a new year is to do tshuva. That in other words, the Gemara is equating those first two Mishnayot of Rosh Hashanah, even though they're not exactly parallel. The only one that's the same is actually Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is one of the first New Years, and it's also one of the 4 times we're judged. But the other 3 years, the other 3 New Years, the first of Nisan, the first of Elul, and Tu B'Shvat, we're not judged. But Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, the Shalosh Regalim, and Rosh Hashanah, doesn't say anything on Yom Kippur, by the way. The day, Yom Adin is Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur is the opportunity to do tshuva between Rosh Hashanah, sort of to turn over what the din is. But the day of judgment is not Yom Kippur, it's Rosh Hashanah, according to the Mishnah. But anyways, but the Gemara here in the Gil is linking the two, or Ezra at least is linking to, which is very fascinating. It makes a lot of sense. But the Rosh Hashanah, we call it a Yom Atzeret is a Yom Hadin, a mini Yom Hadin, but therefore it has the status of a Rosh Hashanah. So that's very nice. So let me ask you a very simple question. Why don't we read it before Pesach or Sukkot? If we want to read it before, so the year end curses, right? Why is Shavuot a year end? Because we're judged for Perot Elam, but we're judged on Pesach on wheat, and we're judged for Sukkot on water, and we're judged on what did I say? And then we're just Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot. Okay, Rosh Hashanah. So we already have. We are reading it before Rosh Hashanah. So why don't we read it before Pesach or Sukkot? So before Sukkot, I understand. No, it's 2 weeks after Rosh Hashanah. So okay, the one from Rosh Hashanah will count. But why not read this one? Remember, there's no Parshat Shavua here. Don't tell me because it won't work with Parshat Shavua. Why don't we read it before Pesach? I don't know that I have a real answer to this question. I mean, I have what I think is an answer, but I'm curious if anybody has any answers or any thoughts about that, or you probably never thought of that, right? So it's not like a common question. People like they can't sleep at night because they want to know why we read the Tochacha before Shavuot and not before Pesach or Sukkot. But it probably, I mean, I'll say something very simple. I don't know if it's true at all. I mean, it's true. I don't know if it's is relevant that Shavuot is basically a neglected holiday. Pesach, the Gemara is not so worried about. Pesach people, everybody does. I wouldn't call it doing tshuva necessarily, but everybody celebrates Pesach. Pesach is the forming of the nation. There's a certain seriousness, but everybody knows Shavuot is like a neglected holiday. It's like for Jews who are not religious, it's totally neglected. You're going to have Jews who are not religious. In the time of Ezra, everybody was religious. No, in the time of Ezra, nobody was religious. How do I know nobody was religious in the time of Ezra? Nobody's a strong word, but I would imagine a much lower percentage than it is today. And I mean that in all seriousness, way lower percentage. How do I know that?
Or was worried about intermarriage.
I was worried about intermarriage for sure. So first of all,
they were partying in Persia.
I'm sorry, they're partying in Persia. So that's before. So that's a little bit of a question. What's the timeline of Purim and Ezra? Let's leave that aside. But even if it is true, the Jews were assimilating in Persia, right? They assimilated in Babel. We know who went back to the land of Israel. So the Mishnah in Kiddushin said the Mamzerim, that's the Netinim, the Stuki. I know I'm not going to define it. A sufi, shtuki, and a sufi means a Jew you pick up on the street, like a soup. You gathered him in. The kids lying like in the bamboo cradle. If you remember that book, they went to China, this couple, and there was a baby girl lying on the street because with China you could only have one child, and people wanted to have a boy. So when they had a girl, they put the girl in the train station, and they could get pregnant again and have a boy. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but that's if anybody remember the book, The Bamboo Cradle, that's how this totally not religious couple who were on a Oxford Rhodes Scholarship or something on one of these fancy scholarships, and then that's how they adopt this baby, and now they live in Israel and they're very religious and blah blah blah. Very very nice story. So that's an asufi. You pick up a baby in the street, no Jewish, no who were they? So those are the people who have no yichus, people who were the lowest of the low went back to Israel. And we know I'm afraid to share my screen again.
Ezra had to teach them how to celebrate the holidays again.
There you go. Ezra had to teach. I have to show it to you, even though I've shown this in my. I'll show it again. Hopefully, we'll be okay. Ezra gathers them on Rosh Hashanah, where are we going here? Ezra gathers the people on Rosh Hashanah, and it's in Nehemiah. I mean, Ezra and Nehemiah in the 24 books of Tanakh, Ezra and Nehemiah is one book. It's not two books. We think of it as two books. I mean, probably most people don't think of it either. I don't know the last time people learned Ezra and Nehemiah. But so here of Nehemiah, Ezra really enters into a new covenant, like Moshe Rabbeinu. He enters into a new covenant. That's the Baruch Hashem Olam Amen Amen. That comes from here a little bit. Okay, then the Nehemiah comes, and then this is Rosh Hashanah. They tell the people, go home. It's Rosh Hashanah. Don't cry. Don't be all sad. It's a holiday. They didn't even know. They had no idea what the mood is on Rosh Hashanah. Ki hayom kadosh al teyatzvu. Don't be sad. So everybody went home. They went home. They had a party on Rosh Hashanah. Lachol, lishtot, lishloch, manot sounds like Purim. Lasot simcha gdola kivinu b'dvarim. That they understood what they were told. They never heard this. They didn't know anything about Rosh Hashanah. And on the second day, they talk about this is the first time we have 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Right, with the Gemara, we say Mimot Ezra. From the time of Ezra, Elul was never a 30-day month. It was Loi Re'inu Evram Ubar. It was never a pregnant month. That's how the Gemara always refers to. A month of 3 days is quote unquote pregnant. So B'Yom HaSheni, they got together and they found what it said in the Torah. Here we go. And this is really one of the most difficult psukim in all of Tanakh. They found in the Torah that they should sit in a sukkah. They never knew to sit in a sukkah before. Okay, so they were assimilated. Okay, I understand. They're Jews today, don't know from sukkahs either. So then he tells them out. He tells them, go to the mountain and bring alei zayid, alei shemen, alei had. That's not exactly the arba meaning. It's sort of a little bit like the lulav and etrog, a little bit not. Alod eitzavot, the hadas, but not for the arba meaning to make a sukkah. I know you make a sukkah out of what's in the arba. And they went and everybody made a sukkah on their roofs. That's in this chapter, in this verse. And the people went out so in English, roofs and their courtyards, and everybody made a sukkah that year. Wow. By Yeshua Sukkot, you know why? And this is one of the most difficult verses in all of Tanakh. Kilo asum mimei Yoshua, that's Yoshua without the hey, interesting. The hey that Moshe added because of the Meraglim, right? Binun. Yeshua Binum Bnei Israel Adiyamahu, because they didn't observe Sukkot from the time of Yeshua Binun until Ezra. That's over 900 years, maybe 1,000 years, depending exactly when Ezra was. It's 850 years. They were in Israel, 70 years of exile, so we're up to 920 at least, and sometime after that, it could be 1,000 years. So and then they read of the Torah, and they taught Torah, and they very, very nice. Okay, so that's really quite startling. I mean, but whatever the case, let me see if I can get my. Yeah, no, I don't know why this is happening, but okay. So that. Give me a sec. Okay. So they were very not religious. They're very not religious to the people. So I don't know. I just think that Shavuot makes more sense, that it's a neglected holiday and they wanted to give it really impetus. It's only one day. So Ezra made a decree that they should read the Klalot before Shavuot. Ezra, of course, is the one who established that we should read the Torah on Mondays and Thursdays. And Shabbos afternoon. According to the Gemara, Moshe Rabbeinu made the decree to read the Torah on Shabbos afternoon. It's an amazing thing. Moshe Rabbeinu, not as the receiver of the Torah, not as the interpreter of the Torah, not as the one who passed down the Torah from God to the Jewish people. Not that, I mean, it's the same Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's Moshe Rabbeinu in his role as a rabbi. It's a rabbinic law. We don't think of Moshe instituting rabbinic laws. Everything Moshe did is biblical. No, God told him X, Y, and Z, and Moshe added them. Moshe realized, and I've said many times, it's probably the most important and impactful rabbinic law there is. Can you imagine Jewish life if we didn't have Parshat Shavua? Boy, would Jewish life be different. And how people would know what's written in the Chumash. But it's really the most impactful rabbinic law made. That was done by Moshe on Shabbos morning. And the Gemara then says that they also did Mondays and Thursdays a little bit, because it says Vayachush Loshet Yamim Bamidbar V'lo Matzu Mayim. They went 3 days in the desert and they didn't find any water. Ein mayim ela Torah. This physical and spiritual worlds go together. You cannot go 3 days without drinking water. You cannot go 3 days without public reading of the Torah. So they had to do Monday, Thursday. But the Gemara says, but the 3 Aliyah and 10 Psukim, that was done by Ezra. And then Ezra made laning at Mincha on Shabbos afternoon. Why did Ezra make laning at Mincha on Shabbos afternoon? Oh, there we go. I disappeared again. Why did Ezra make laning on Mincha on Shabbos afternoon? So because the people who slept in on Shabbos morning, the Yoshvei Kranot, the people who hang out at on the street corners, Yoshvei Kranot, that's an expression where that the pool hall. I don't know what they're doing. They're on social media, okay, and then they miss shul in the morning. But they came to shul for mincha. No, we find that a little strange because we have way more people coming to shul on Shabbos morning than at mincha. So that's why Ezra would establish the laning on Shabbos afternoon. So this was really a separate establishment that we should read Parshat Bechukotai with the blessings and the curses. Okay, before Shavuot. It's, as we discussed, the importance of Shavuot and a year end and a Yom Hadin go together, even though the Mishnah and Rosh Hashanah separates them. There are 4 Rosh Hashanahs and 4 days of judgment. The Gemara in Megillah puts it together, that since Shavuot is a day of judgment, we consider it to be like a new year. Okay, let's discuss a little bit the Parsha itself. Okay, now I don't know, when I was growing up or now, you often hear, rabbis will talk about why do we read Parshat Bamidbar before Shavuot. So Tosfot already notes we don't read it the week before Shavuot. Then we have to read it next week. So Tosfot says, and from what I can gather, this is just a change. Like, I don't think this is what Ezra wanted. I guess in the time of Ezra, we didn't really have Parshat Shavua. I don't know, whatever it was, it still wouldn't matter. Tosfot says we don't want to read the curses the week before Shavuot and Rosh Hashanah. That's like too depressing. You want to go on to Rosh Hashanah and Shavuot a little bit happier. So we're going to Bamidbar, that's exciting. I don't know, the count of the Jewish people, the march to the land of Israel, or Nitzavim. We're always going to have a break. We don't want to do Kitavo, and we don't want to do Bechukotai right before Shavuot. Ezra clearly said before. Ezra didn't mean do it 10 days in advance. He meant to do it 3 days in advance. But Tosfot writes that we don't want to do that. So that would appear to me that's not like we changed that. The Jewish people didn't feel comfortable fully implementing Ezra's decree, so they did Ezra's decree 98%. By the way, this of course only works if you live outside of Israel. I mean, even though Ezra was in Israel, but the way our Parshat, we don't do a special reading with Bechukotai. It's Parshat Shavua. The way we have it set up, it works out to be Parshat Shavua, but that doesn't always work in Israel because, we have this crazy system now when the last day of Pesach is on Shabbos, so Israel gets ahead of us because they don't have they have a last day, but it's on the 7th day. They don't get the 8th day. So when the 8th day of our Pesach is on Shabbos, so in Israel they're reading Achrimot, usually depending on the leap year, not leap year, they're reading one Parsha ahead. And we don't catch up till Matot Masei. It's one of my pet peeves that gets me really upset. I don't know why everybody's pet peeve. I have this real pet peeve about this. It bothers me to no end. I don't know. It's like a silly thing. But it's not a silly thing. We should catch up the following week. Often they're reading Shmini. Sav is always like Shabbos Sagadol. Let's say in a non-leap year. Shabbos Sav. So they read Shmini. So the next week they read Tazria. And Metzora. So why don't we just read Tazria Metzora and catch up in 1 week? So I've asked that question to a lot of people. They have this excuse, that excuse. Then part of this excuse is this: they want to get to Bechukotai before Shavuot. If we do it too quickly, what happens in Israel is they read Bechukotai like last week. Okay, this year there wasn't an issue. Pesach didn't end on Friday Shabbos, but when it's going to happen, I think next year. So then they're a week ahead of us. So they're actually going to read Bechukotai 3 weeks before Shavuot, not 2. So that's already pretty far from what Ezra's saying. Then it's already not connected. So I guess within 30 days, maybe it's connected. So that is interesting. But the reason why it's a pet peeve of mine is because during the time when they had Parshat, when they established the Parshat HaShavua, so how many people traveled from Israel to Chutz La'aretz between Pesach and Matot Masei, Tisha B'Av, the week before Tisha B'Av? How many people traveled? In a busy year, maybe 10 people. I don't think 10 people traveled from Chutz La'aretz to Israel between April and August. Like, who in the world in the 1200s went from Israel, and they weren't coming back. They didn't go two ways. They didn't. So like, but now, literally, I looked up the numbers once. It's over 1 million people. Over 1 million people go back and forth to Israel in the summer months. So there's 1 million people. Okay, so not all of them go to shul, whatever. So 1 million people hear one parsha twice and miss one parsha. It makes no sense. The rabbis have to change it. But okay, that's my pet peeve, that they have to change that. Anyways, okay, let's get to the parsha itself. This is really all introduction, but I told you I'm pinch hitting, so like, intro, that's what I do, a long introduction, how to warm up a lot. Okay. Have a few things. We'll see what we get to. Okay, why don't we start with the opening pasuk? It's always good to start at the beginning. So Rashi has, I think it's a pretty famous comment. He says, when it's repetitive, so Rashi says, what does it mean? So I would have interpreted Chukim and Mishpatim. The Torah 50 times said, keep my Chukim and Mishpatim. So we assume Chukim, whether it means laws, we don't understand, but we know there's a category of laws of Chukim, and there's a category of laws of Mitzpatim. So he wanted to say, because Mitzvot is too broad a category, but still, whatever. But Rashi, you could say they're Chukim and they're Mitzvot, other Mitzvot, but Rashi says it's redundant, so we don't need it. The Torah could have said im tish et mitzvotai tishmaro. So Rashi says to you, amelim b'Torah. You should be amelim b'Torah. So what does amelim b'Torah mean? Like in yeshiva, amelis b'Torah. What does it mean to you, amelim b'Torah? Anybody? Nobody? Everybody's afraid to speak up. Okay, I don't bite. I'm sorry.
Steiging.
Steiging, yeah. So I don't know Yiddish, but right. So I know steiging, even though I don't know Yiddish. Yeah. So whatever steiging means, you have to sit. You have to on your tuchis. Part of my language, and sit there. All the Yiddish I don't know. All the Yiddish words I'm saying, right? And you have to learn. Mainly means to sweat. I would say the best translation is to work hard, to sit and to really sweat and to work hard. And I just want to, for a couple minutes, I think we all know this, but I just, this is, we don't know from this anymore. We don't do a mailing b'Torah. We have it. It's our society. I'm not saying this as a critical comment. Really, I'm just saying it as an observation. We today have Art Scroll and Koren, and nobody likes to do any work. We don't. The idea of sitting and and breaking your head for 2 hours over a Tosfot, maybe it exists a little bit, but we're a generation. We've translated everything. We take for granted the translation of the Talmud, and it's a wonderful thing. There's no doubt it's a wonderful thing. Art Scroll is responsible for 10 million hours of Torah learned a day, and I'm probably not even exaggerating. I'm probably not exaggerating. Maybe it's 5 million hours a day. How many million of hours of Torah learning happens because of the Art Scroll translation of the Talmud? It's millions. Anybody learns Daf Yomi. The reason Daf Yomi is more popular in America than it is in Israel is partly because of Art Scroll. I mean, they put it on the map, and it's not okay. All the other things they translated into English, and the purpose of the Art Scroll translation of the Gemara was, my understanding was, when they finished it, it's kind of interesting, they gave it to 4 women to read it. And women, of course, in that world, who had never studied Talmud before. And the idea was, can somebody who's never studied Talmud, has no exposure to Talmud, can they read the English of Art Scroll and understand what's going on? And the goal was, if not, they had to change it. So that's the total opposite of Tiyuam Meilim B'Torah, because really I would say there are, which is, maybe that's what our generation needs. I am not, every generation has its own ideas. The Meshech Chachma, I've discussed that in other times, every generation has its own mitzvah, right? Every generation, he says the mitzvah in Egypt was no mitzvah, was to have Jewish cultural symbols, to speak Hebrew, not to change your clothes, right? That's where the Meshech Chachma develops that idea, that in Egypt, it was the culture that kept Jews alive. And in every generation, there's a particular mitzvah that takes on great historical importance. Rav Schachter, who was the one who introduced me to this Meshech Chachma, then said that in our generation, they told me this already 30 years ago, but more, in our generation, the mitzvah is, Yushuv Aretz, to settle the land of Israel. There was the same mitzvah in the 1200s to live in Israel, but it wasn't the same mitzvah. Clearly, it was, but we all know it wasn't. So every generation has its own challenges. So our generation needs it. We don't have we have 30-second sound bites and and the internet's got a 1/10 of a second and speed and everything. So we need that in learning too. But there is an idea to break your head in learning, and even if you don't understand so much, because they're really the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. There's really two mitzvot. I mean, there's many aspects, but two of the basic mitzvot in Talmud Torah. There's a mitzvah to know Torah and there's a mitzvah to learn Torah. And people usually don't distinguish between them. But it's an important distinction to make. There is a mitzvah to know Torah. That's one mitzvah. So if you know a lot, you don't have to learn. And there's a mitzvah to learn Torah. By the way, and this is really crucial, I'm not getting into the whole discussion of women and Talmud Torah, but I'm sure everybody here knows that technically speaking, women are exempt from the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Women are only exempt from the mitzvah of learning Torah if they know Torah. There is no mitzvah. In other words, the mitzvah to know Torah applies equally to men or to women. The mitzvah to learn Torah, in other words, let's say you have a man and woman, they know the whole Torah already. They know everything. So fine, then the woman doesn't have to learn anymore. But before they know everything, the woman has an equal obligation to man. They both have to learn to know Torah. They have to know Torah. And then there's a mitzvah, even if you know everything, just to be involved in Torah. Because you're involved in Torah. That's a beautiful, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, Keneged Kulam, means even if it's not practical, even if you know it,
Wonderful.
interacting with
Just the fourth.
the divine, if
The
you want.
fourth. I don't need it.
Hold
I
on.
said just the fourth.
Okay, I hope that worked. Okay. There's the mitzvah, and that applies again. I remember Rav Shachter basically telling us he thinks really the mitzvah to know Torah applies more to women than to men. And I don't know exactly today with the egalitarianism and everything, but in most homes, the woman has to know Hilchot Kashrut better than her husband. She for sure has to know Hilchot Nida better than her husband. She has to know Hilchot Bishul on Shabbos. I mean, it depends on the home you live in, but in the home Rav Shachter comes from, that's for sure true. That the woman has to know it better than the man. So that's one mitzvah. That's not what Rashi's talking about here. To you, Amelim B'Torah is not the mitzvah to know Torah, because often it's a contradiction. It is true when you spend 2 hours breaking your head on a Tosfot, you're not learning so much. You're involved in the mitzvah of learning, but you're not gaining a lot of knowledge. You're gaining skills, you're gaining the excitement, you're gaining the understanding. That's all beautiful. So how you balance them, I don't exactly know. But there is an idea, and we say that at every siyum. We work and they work. We toil. I think how they translate amel, to toil, whatever that means. We toil and they toil. They meaning the non-Jewish world, the business world. And we toil and get a reward, and they toil, they don't get a reward. That's not true. I mean, they get lots of reward. They make lots of money. And so the answer is they make money on the bottom line. We make money on the effort, or we get reward for the effort. Amelim in Torah means we get rewarded for the effort involved in Torah. If somebody is really gifted and is really smart, he knows everything, and he doesn't learn so much. The person who knows a tenth as much, but struggles hard, it's a greater mitzvah of Talmud Torah. Person who knows less, because they're involved in the mitzvah. It's the mitzvah is the effort. Lepum Sara Agra, if you want to split. According to the effort is the reward. So there are two mitzvot. There's a mitzvah to know Torah, and then of course you have to learn Torah to know Torah. So that's, we today focus on that. Maybe today we have to. Maybe we don't live in it, but maybe we lived in the shtetl, you don't have to know so much. It was by osmosis. The whole shtetl kept the Torah. When you live in free, open societies, knowledge is much more important. Right, that's the Chafetz Chaim's heter for women to learn Torah. When they started, when the Chafetz Chaim got on the Beis Yaakov bandwagon, so what was his excuse then? In previous generations, the women didn't have to learn; it was sort of by osmosis, and they got it. Remember, today, there's such an open society, we have to do formal education. Okay, great. So maybe that's more important. But I just want to point out, I'll point out another little pet peeve, since I'm in my pet peeve mood. Today, as one of my pet peeves is that they translate it. I don't mean to pick on the Mishnah Berurah, but I'll pick on the Mishnah Berurah. Like, if you can't read the Mishnah Berurah in the original, you should not be learning it. They have now the Mishnah Berurah in English. I don't know if they have the whole thing even. The Mishnah Berurah is not a book to be read in English. It's not for if you don't know Hebrew, you shouldn't be learning Mishnah Berurah. There's so many others. So people say, why do you say that? Because you have to know what's important. Sefer HaChinuch is the best book to learn. I said earlier, the Sefer HaChinuch, 200 mitzvot and Dvarim. Right? If there's one book, if you want to become knowledgeable in Judaism, just read the Sefer HaChinuch and you'll know like 80% of what you have to know almost. It's only a slight exaggeration. Sefer HaChinuch is the most amazing book ever written in 500 short pages in easy Hebrew, although it's translated into English too, but it's in easy Hebrew. He defines the mitzvah, he tells you the parameters of the mitzvah, who it applies, when it applies, how it applies, the basic laws of every mitzvah, just like that. You can pass yourself off as a serious Talmud Chacham. You'll know a little about everything. You'll know the Sefer HaChinuch. What are you learning Mishnah Berurah for? Backwards and forwards, and the Eliyahu Rabbah says this, and then one said that. That's for people who've learned for many, many years. It's not meant for everybody. So this idea today that we translate, like everything today gets translated, is, I think, ridiculous. It's certain books it's important to have in English. Gemara too, maybe. Though, as I started to say, I never got that far. When the art scroll started, Rav Menashe Klein was, okay, he's not from our world, but still, he was furious. This is awful. This is terrible. You can't have the Gemara's not for the Gemara's for people. Gemara was also never learned by everybody. 50 years ago, people, the way I'm saying you shouldn't translate the Mishnah Berurah, people said you shouldn't translate the Gemara. If you don't know how to learn Gemara in the original, you shouldn't be learning Gemara. You're learning Chumash, you should be learning Pirkei Avot, you should be learning Tanakh, you should be learning the Kuzari, whatever. You should be learning Tehillim, but what do you have to learn Gemara for? Okay, so Daf Yomi changed the world. But anyways, so that's just one idea to Amelim B'Torah. Exactly how it applies today, I don't know 100%. By the way, this is also something, if we're going to say Bechukotai is the end of the Torah, the original, what could have been the end of the Torah, it also makes, that's a nice idea, end of the Torah. It's the process, right? When I ask you what's the difference, to say in chat, you can do rabbinics or Talmud, right? Kids most of them aren't observant, so there are levels, different levels of observance. So some kids will ask, what's the difference between Talmud and rabbinics? So I say rabbinics is like Torah Shabbat Peh, Halakha, whatever you want to call it. We take units, like Nimashur Dadin, Kivud Abeim, whenever we take units, and Talmud is Talmud. You learn Gemara. So I tell them Talmud is the process of learning, and rabbinics is the bottom line. So some people, like the process better. You can learn a lot more knowledge-wise, not learning Gemara. You can do 6 pages Gemara, and you don't know if you're coming or going at the end. You don't know what the halach is. We end up with a machloket, and the Gemara never reaches a conclusion, and whatever. So that's but the idea is to be involved in Torah. That's really what Rashi's saying. Okay, that's one thing. I want 2 more things. Hopefully, we might have time for. Kedushat Beit HaKnesset. So Kedushat Beit HaKnesset appears in this week's Parsha. Where does Kedushat Beit HaKnesset appear in this week's Parsha? I'm not going to share my screen. Vashimoti ad Mikdashechem. God says, I'm going to exile you, and I will destroy your temples. Vahashimoti amikdashech. I forget what the pasuk is exactly. Let's see if I can quickly find it. Torah talks about the Shemitah, the land, I'll throw you out, and the land can get all the Shemitah years it didn't do. But anyways, the Torah says Vashimoti at mikdashechem. So here it's very interesting. So the Gemara interprets Vahashimoti, I will destroy it, and yet it doesn't say at mikdashechem. It doesn't say your temples all destroyed, which is the more Hebrew way. Mikdashechem Hashemu, whatever. It said that Hashimoti, I will destroy your temple. So after it's destroyed, it's still called a temple. I will share my screen because I want you to see it. So the Mishnah in Megillah says that's where all the laws of Kedusha Beit HaKnesset are. In Mishnah place for them. But the Mishnah says like this. The first chapter, I don't know why. Chapter 2, let me just get to 3. So the Mishnah says, for Adamar Rabbi Yehuda, Beit Knesset Shecharav, a destroyed Beit Knesset, a shul that was once a shul, that's no longer shul. Don't say it's a church. I don't know. That's a whole different story. Ein maspidin betocho. You're not allowed to give a eulogy. It's interesting. You're not supposed to give eulogies in shul. Sometimes we do it today. If a great person passes away, but that's the shul is a place for tefillah and Talmud Torah. It's not a place for hespedim. You know, there are people who wouldn't do weddings in shuls. That's a whole different story. Ein mafshilin betocho betoch chavalim. You can't put out your chavalim. What's that? Ropes. So you have things you want to dry. Ein porshim letocho mitzudot. You can't put any traps to catch the who knows what, the animals or the mice. I don't know what. Vein shochtim al hagago peirot. You can't even go on the roof. The roof has kedusha. They used to dry out their fruits on the roof. Vein osino to kapandria. This is the one halacha that's still like, so I think the most famous of these halacha. You're not allowed to make a shul a shortcut, right? You're only allowed to go in the shul to daven. You can't pass through because it's, I don't have to walk around the whole block. I'll just go through the shul. So that you're not allowed to, unless you sit there for 5 minutes and take out a Mishnah and you learn Mishnah. Shenemar, as it says in our week's parsha, Kedushatam av shehem im shomamim. Even when they are destroyed, they are considered have their holiness to them. And then you can't even mow the grass. I don't know what this means exactly. I don't know anybody who followed that. I never heard of such a thing, but that's what it says in the Mishnah. Alubo asavim. If the grass is growing wild, right? Lo yitlosh. Don't take it away. This used to be a shul, and look, a shul. Look what it is now, and therefore you want to see the ugliness. And on the one hand, it's funny. There's like a tension. On the one hand, you want to make look nice. If the shul maintains its kedusha, even when it's not in use, so you have to look really nice. On the other hand, you want to have a memorial to what once was, so you have to have this your mourning also. Let's see if I can get this to work. Maybe okay. So that's this week's parsha, kedusha beit knesset, which is I would say a problem we have today, if I can say that. We whatever our shul. I don't think there was a campaign recently. Not people shouldn't bring their smartphones into shul. I think that's a great idea. I mean, all kinds of things that we do that don't have kedusha beit knesset. I've said many times. I know I'll get into trouble when I say it, but it's okay. Having a machitz in shul, so that's part of the salvation. That's part of kedusha beit knesset, but that's one of the lower things of kedusha beit knesset. Not talking in a shul is more important than kedusha beit knesset. In other words, I know sociologically that's not how we operate today, but there's no doubt, halachically speaking, a shul that is quiet with mixed seating has more kedusha than a shul that has noise and is with a mechitza. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You can look, you won't find anywhere in the Shulchan Aruch any halachas about the mechitza. It's never mentioned. I'm not saying, but not talking shul, the Mishnah Berurah, I don't want to, the Mishnah Berurah basically says you shouldn't go to shul. So I wouldn't advise that today. Today it's important, whatever it is, but whatever, it's maybe it's better in some shuls. I don't know. It's all over the place. But kedusha beit knesset is a serious issue. And again, that's the question. You want kids running around, like how much, what gets tolerated? But really, I mean, the Sri Aish has a tshuva. Can you even have a lecture in a shul? Have a lecture on Jewish history. So of course we think that's wonderful, and I guess fine, it's wonderful. But it's not so clear that halachically speaking, it's really allowed. We have a notion that we build our shuls al tanai, that our shuls are built that they don't have full kedusha beit knesset. One of the differences between a beit knesset and a beis medrash, you're not allowed to eat in a shul. You're not allowed to eat in a shul. You're allowed to eat in a beis medrash because you're there all day learning, but you're not allowed to eat in a shul. You have all these, but a lot of shuls, they have shalashudas right in the shul. That's very common, or kiddush right in the shul. And so whatever. So we say we build our shuls all tonight, but whatever. I just want to point out that I don't know, something to be concerned about. The Gemara that takes kedusha beit knesset very, very seriously. And if you can't even put your fruit to dry on a destroyed shul on the roof, imagine what you have to do inside a shul that's not destroyed. In other words, the shul is not even a shul anymore, and you're not allowed to walk through it. You can't walk through it as a shortcut because 50 years ago it was once a shul. Nobody's done there in 50 years, and it was once a a shul. So I don't know. It's just something we should think about a little bit. And there's another one of my other pet peeves. I'm on my pet peeve week. You know, a shul is supposed to be the nicest building in the city. So yeah, very, I was once talking to somebody who said, the shul doesn't have any money. I said, what are you talking about? The shul, there are like 50 millionaires in the shul. He said, yeah, they're 50 millionaires. The money's in their homes. It's not in the shul. What you won't tolerate from your home, you can't tolerate in the shul. If you can't tolerate, that you need a paint job or the wallpaper or the hardwood floors, things you wouldn't put up with in your home, you're not allowed to put up with in your shul. So if the community really is poor and everybody lives in rundown apartments and who knows what, okay, so the shul can be run down. But if you live in a 3,000 square foot home and 2 cars and 4 bedrooms and go on vacation twice a year, so the shul's got to look like a very nice place. So again, I don't know how to translate this into practice, and I don't want to go for. I'm not here to criticize anybody, but this is, you just look what the Mishnah says, what it's doing. Thing. Okay, yeah, I'll get back to the comments somebody just threw out to me privately. Okay, and then just let me end. I see it's getting late, so that's one thing. And I just really want to end tying in all of Vayikra, right? I started by saying, that we could have, the Torah on a certain level could have ended at Bechukotai. It should have. Had we not had the sin of the Meraglim, so much of the Torah would not have been necessary. We would have to throw in Dvarim elsewhere. But the book itself, the books of Bamidbar and Dvarim, basically wouldn't be needed. What's the opening word of Vayikra? It's Vayikra. That's why it's called Vayikra. Vayikra means he called out. So everybody knows, I think, there's a little aleph, right? The aleph. Why is there a little aleph? Why is there a little aleph?
Vayikir.
Right. What's the difference?
Vayikir, he happened upon him.
Happenstance, like a temporary. Vayikar li met bilam, right? Vayikra is lashon endearment of lashon chiba. Rashi says God loves us, right? All the books of the Torah begin with the idea of love, counting. God loving the Jewish people. Vayikra Moshe, I love you, Moshe. I'm going to call out to Moshe. As opposed to Bilam, Vayikar, I happen to bump into you. Hello. You bump into a friend, you say hello. The friend who you really like, you call them up, you arrange to meet them. So that's Vayikra. Vayikra. And really, I think the theme of the book is our relationship with God, a relationship of Vayikra or Vayikar, because what's the curse is Im Telchuimi Bekeri, Vayikar, Rashi, Vayikar. It's all, remember, the klala is when we bump into God, okay, it happens to be, instead of making an appointment, making God a permanent part of my life. So that's really what Vayikra is all about, and that's where the aleph is so small. We have to determine, do we make the aleph big or do we get rid of the aleph? And therefore, the curses are when we get rid of the aleph, or when the aleph is very small. So that's really I would say, the overarching theme of it. By the way, I'll end with, I said that a shul maintains its status even when it is destroyed. I actually think there's a beautiful, hopeful message here. In other words, what are the rabbis saying? I think what the rabbis are saying is these shuls will one day be shuls. The Gemara in Avodah Zarah says that all the circuses are going to turn into shuls, and all the Batei Midrash in Babel will go to Israel, turn into shuls. So I think the rabbis are saying, the shuls are destroyed now. The Jewish people are in exile. I mean, these things were developed when the Jews were suffering, and the Jews are in exile, and but yes, you have to treat what's once was a shul, but you have to treat what's a shul as a shul, because one day it'll be a shul again, or at least we have to have that attitude that the Jewish, a shul is a permanent thing, and it will remain permanent, but it's not Vayikar, it's for all time. Okay, just a quick review, which I already did half of it. The Torah should have could have ended at Bechukotai, and that's why the last pasuk in the Parsha is that this is what God said at Har Sinai. From Yitro till the end of Vayikra is basically all laws. You don't have any stories anymore, pretty much. And that's it, and we're finished. Okay, but it so happens Dvarim has 200 laws, but they were probably given earlier. We had to write it, but the Dvarim was only said because Moshe had to prepare the next generation to enter the land, and half of Bamidbar is after the sin of the spies. So obviously that wouldn't have been needed. And of course, then thematically we like to end with a curse, and not a curse, a blessing. I mean, a blessing. So that makes sense. That Moshe then warns him at the end, and then he warns him again when it didn't happen. They had to add on 2 new books, so he had to warn them again. And Kitavo, again, the blessings and the curse. When we talk about Ezra establishing, we should say it before Shavuot, because it's the year end, even though it's not really the year end. It's the year end and the Yom Adin, because the idea of a new year is to do a Yom Adin. What about Sukkot? Yom Adin? We said Shavuos is, we wanted to make it more important. Pesach, Sukkot, people celebrate it. They know what it's like, even though in the time of Ezra, they weren't so into Sukkot. But I think we want, because, okay, maybe they're only two, they didn't want to read it more than twice. They only wanted twice. They picked Shavuot. Of course, if they would have picked Pesach, it would have asked the same question. But I think there is a reason. Shavuos is sort of a lonely holiday, right? Matan Torah is not in the Torah either. That's for a whole other shir. Right, Matan Torah is not mentioned in Shavuot. Shavuot is very little. There's nothing there. It's all agriculture, which doesn't. If you're not a farmer, there's nothing on Shavuos. So anyway, so that was to warn us that it's a really important day. This too is a Yom Adin. This too is the end of the year. We separate it by a week because we don't want to do it right before Rosh Hashanah and right before Shavuot. So we take a week off. And then we talk about Ezra a little bit, the personality, the reflection, emotions. We talk about Amelim B'Torah, that there's two mitzvot. There's the mitzvah to study Torah and the mitzvah to know Torah. And there are two, often those mitzvot almost contradict each other. They can be at odds with each other. There's a tension between the mitzvot. But everybody, man, woman, everybody has to know the Torah the same. The mitzvah to learn, to be Amelim B'Torah, to engage and gross yourself in Torah, work hard and break your head and struggle. That's a separate, special mitzvah. And okay, we live in a generation where people don't like to struggle. It turns them off from the subject. Okay, what can you do? But and then we talked about Kedushat Beit HaKnesset a little bit, and okay, and that we should have a permanent relation with God. So you see, me, if I can say that, which is fine. There, when we probably go. You just made a very controversial statement. Mixed eating has kedusha. The Beis Hamikdash had a separate area for women. I don't know exactly what is kedusha or not correct. The idea of a machitz is mentioned in the Beit Hamikdash, but it's never quoted. See, we come from a generation. We come from the era where this was the battle cry. An Orthodox Jew was, if he went to a shul with a mechitza, that was it. That became. But that's sociological. I'm not trying to downplay the importance, but like that's not the halachically most important thing about what you do, but it's so ingrained that even minyanim that have woman aliyot, even the partnership minyan, don't dream of getting rid of the mechitza. Mechitza became the symbol, but it's halachically, if you're drinking pure halacha, which we can't live in a pure halachic world. We of course are influenced by sociological. What I said was all I said is that a shul where they talk has less kedusha than a shul that doesn't have. I just said a quiet shul with its mixed seating has more kedusha than a noisy shul with separate seating, and I 100% stand by that statement. The ideal in Jewish law is the shul with the mechitza and quiet. But it's it's like when Rabbi Badi say, well, I don't want to get into that, but it's actually what's worse, a mini skirt or pants, whatever. So it's just a question about that's all I was saying, right? We're so accustomed to the mechitza being so important that we've made it into more important than it really is. And we forgot about it. It's always like that. I always say it. We only have so much strength to fight battles, right? I always use it, the ethical and the ritual. If we put all our efforts religiously into ritual, we don't have enough left for ethical. Human beings only have so much strength. You can only say Avinu Malkeinu after October 7th for so long. I imagine most of the shuls don't say Avinu Malkeinu anymore. People can't take it anymore. It's too much. And that's a little nothing. That's a little minor thing. We only have so much religious energy. So if you're going to use it all on ritual and be machmir here, be machmir there, you don't have anything left for the basics. And that's true about everything in life. We all know that. You have to use your energy wisely. So we put so much effort into making sure our shuls have a mechitza. That was the definition of orthodoxy. And maybe maybe at good historical, whatever, sociological things, who knows? But it came at the expense of other things. It's like what Emanuel Feldman wrote in Tradition many years ago. He wrote what was he writing about? He was writing about, unfortunately, all the so-called religious people who cheat in business. And he said when we came to America, the rabbis there was no kashrut, there was no Shabbos, there was no mikveh, there was nothing religiously. So they worked their butt off. And there's amazing people who created Orthodox infrastructure, mechitzas, Orthodox shuls everywhere, day schools and mikvehs and kosher restaurants and kosher food, the OU, amazing. And they didn't talk about business. They just thought it was natural. Obviously, you have to be honest in business, but they forgot about it. Like nobody ever talked about it. So it went by the wayside. It's just the way. If you never hear the rabbi talking about it, I haven't mentioned for a long time. Rav Shechter told us every year he would give a shir on Lo Tignov. He would say things like, you have to pay your taxes and you have to give back the change, and you have to and you're not allowed to steal, you're not allowed to shop, and the people and he would tell us he's giving the shear because a student of his once had been a very good student of his got arrested on tax fraud or something like that. So they how can you do it? A religious person, how could you cheat? He said, I was in yeshiva for 10 years and I never heard a shear that you can't cheat. I heard shear in Shabbos, Eruvin, everything. I never heard the rabbi talking about not cheating. So I don't want anybody to ever finish my shear and they can say they never heard a shear, you can't cheat. That's more important than if the food is kosher or not. Not just more important than glatt kosher, more important than kosher, not to cheat. So what can I tell you? Whatever. I have my own, whatever. Okay. So you don't have to, feel free to disagree with me, but on this, I know.
Sephardim don't talk in shul.
I know it's beautiful. I don't want to say what people say about that. Yes, it is. No, I think it's better. I think there are a lot of shuls today where people don't talk. It's improved, I think, overall, but it's many shuls need a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah.
And the excuse, that in the Reform shul, they're like they're guests, so they're quiet, When the Orthodox shul, they feel at home. That's a nice baba maisa, like very nice.
Right.
It's nice. You want to be malamitz with your Rav Levi Yitzchak Bertichev. So you want to tell God, they feel at home. There's not okay. I get it, but we know halachically that holds no weight. Okay, let's see if there are any other questions here. It's for Ema Melim. Right. I said that the Melim. The other question is not how many hours, how many useful hours. It's also true. You have to have a business sense when you learn. You have to know, right? When I say break your head, you're right. You have to know where to draw the line. Okay, enough already. Go on. Don't spend hours if you don't understand. I'm talking about when you're understanding the depth of Torah with understanding. If you don't understand something, then it is good to move on. You're right. You have to know where to draw the line. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
What?
Tomorrow morning, 9:15, I give my regular shear on the sitter that I didn't have time that now I have to prepare because the time I was preparing for my Parshat shear when I had okay. Anyways, yes, Marty,
could I ask a technical question?
Sure.
In the last week, when I hit the link to the shear, that it's been coming up asking you
password. Yeah, I don't. Did anybody have that problem? I know. On the other night, people said when they clicked the link, they had to put in the password. I don't know if it's still. I have no idea. How Zoom? You had that issue today?
Yeah,
Yes.
I had it.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know why that's happening. I really
Still
don't.
needs password.
I'm sorry.
Still requires a password for this share just now.
Yeah. So I don't know what's happening, and I really don't know, and I don't. Okay, I'm gonna have to. I don't know. Okay. All right. I don't know what to say. It requires a password, and I don't know why that is because we didn't do anything differently. And okay, knows how to solve that. Please let me know. Maybe I don't know, but it's the same link. We didn't do anything differently. We just sent out the same email.
No, it was different last week from Friday to Sunday.
But you got in without putting in the password, right?
No, I had to.
Even tonight, you had to put in the password too?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there anybody who got who in the password just clicking on the link? Nobody? Okay. So I don't know what to say, but anyways, okay.
If you could fix it, it'd be great because sometimes if your hands aren't working, it can be really hard to put in the password.
Yeah, so I have no idea why. I'm going to ask people who know more than I do, and maybe they'll be able to figure out if there's something wrong. I have no idea. I don't know if it's a Zoom issue like another, or it's an issue on somehow with our Zoom account, and I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sorry. Let's see what we can do. Especially,
Do you have a technical person there?
we do, but I don't know if they'll know Zoom, and you can't talk to people in Zoom unless you have some super duper account. You can't talk to them. You have to email them. They won't talk to you on the phone. So I'll ask our tech support people. Yes, I will ask them. But thank you.
Okay.
I hope to clear it up. If not by tomorrow morning, whatever. At least our program on Sunday on Shavuot. If you haven't signed up, our Yom Yun. If you're
It's a big day. It's a big day. It better work.
Yeah, I mean it works. You're all here. It works. It's just you have to do an extra step, and I have to let people know that they shouldn't think if they're locked out, right? That it could be there are people who don't come because they clicked the link, they didn't get in, and they didn't realize what they have to do. But at least, all right, we'll see what we can do, and please God, look forward to.
Oh mind. It was fun. Thank you. Lalatov.
Thank you so much. Terrific show. Thank you.
But okay, now it doesn't matter. Okay, here we go.
you.
Okay, Shabbat shalom, everybody.
It was a pleasure. Shabbat shalom.
Okay, thank you. Our sanctity of the synagogue. Yes, of course, that was with the fights over the chitza. What's his name? Baruch Litwin, I think. They went to the Supreme Court. Yeah, these are huge issues. But I'm talking halakhically. I'm not talking the sociological argument of the chitza. That's a totally, it's a separate thing. Okay. Laila Tov.